Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Thursday, and today's guests, including Thomas Drance from The Athletic, standing by, brought to you by Langley Chrysler. Enjoy no-hassle 3-day returns and 30-day exchanges on all used vehicles, so you can make sure what you get is just right for you in one of the largest inventories in BC. Don't just love your car, love buying it at langleychrysler.com. Unsigned into the Delaney's OK Tire and Langley inbox. This is so true. We didn't bring it up. Remove the host team from the Memorial Cup for the sake of fairness. Fine. Now find me a city that wants to play host with local fans being checked out. Obviously, a very good point, but that issue of fairness is coming up with what happened with the Memorial Cup yesterday, and at the very least, it's a discussion. Let's hope it doesn't happen on a regular basis. It hasn't so far, in terms of teams being knocked out in the Chilliwack Chiefs did that with the Centennial Cup not that long ago, where they were knocked out in the first round. They ended up winning the national championship. Thomas Drance joining us now from The Athletic. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. 4 words for you, Donnie.
Yes.
March Madness style tournament.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Like, make an event. Host it across the country, and then have the Memorial Cup game played in Montreal or Toronto or Vancouver or Edmonton, like in an NHL barn. Bring a carnival atmosphere. Let it soak up all oxygen in the weeks leading up to the NHL draft. I mean, tell me I'm wrong, Donnie.
Well, okay, but tell me what happens to the league championships. They still go on? Like the
Sure.
Western League, Quebec League?
You can play those. And then you just have an expanded pool, single-game elimination. Give me a ton of single-game elimination hockey. We want to see it, especially when it's CHL or NCAA, that type of level. That's the answer. Invite like 8 college teams. Have like a college team bracket. At least invite the teams that make the Frozen Four. Maybe it's all the semifinalists. Maybe it's 16 teams, right? You got the CHL semifinalists. Invite the NCAA Frozen Four teams and play it out before the draft. I mean, American TV would cover it, like the whole thing. It would be great for the sport. Be great for everybody.
Maybe a beer league team as well. What the heck?
Let's go. We'll get some like FA Cup vibes going. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry to see that picture of Rick. I miss him when he's not here in his Hawaiian shirt, Donnie. But I wanted to make like the premiere and do my best Dollywall impression for you, because I actually did work the phones a little bit this morning, and I've got some updates. Got some updates for you.
Are you being serious, or are you just impersonating Dollywall?
I'm just going to say it to you nicely, Donnie. I'm just going to say it to you nicely.
Very good.
I'm ready to go with some updates. I'm going to mispronounce every player name as a tribute to our friend.
How would you do with Evgeny Malkin? Because Dollywall says we have to hold your feet to the fire that you're saying that Malkin could be coming to Vancouver?
What?
He said something like that.
The problem with Rick is he was trying to say Andreas Athanasiou.
Oh, good.
I was talking about Ilya Mikheyev, and he's like, Malkin?
Okay.
Look, the Malkin thing, here's what it comes down to. There's obviously familiarity between Jim Rutherford and Evgeny Malkin. If the Canucks clear space, particularly from their top 6, and want to bring in someone to change the culture, he would seem to me to fit the bill. I've never said to Rick that I expect it to happen. I don't think it would be outside of the Canucks' consideration set. Certainly not as far outside as I think people would expect on first blush. Anyway, let me get some updates, and I want to take Rick and mispronounce some names, all right?
Yeah, yes,
so
go.
Let's start with Brock Boeser. Boeser. Look, talks are ongoing on a potential compromise agreement, but progress has been slow, and we're getting into some meaningful deadlines as of this long weekend. So the deadline for club-elected salary arbitration is this Saturday. It's this Saturday, Donnie. And I know for sure that the matter has been subject to some internal discussion and real consideration among Canucks brass. Now, I've always viewed the arbitration route as something of a nuclear option, but I don't think the club is nearly as concerned about it as I would be. So that's a situation to keep an eye on. I don't want to sort of overreact here. You know, negotiations that are said to be far apart can be far apart 1 minute and done the next. That's how negotiations work. And I'd still wager that the deadline passes without the club filing, but it's a more realistic possibility than I thought it would be going into the long weekend. Bottom line, club would love to give Besser an opportunity to bounce back here, but it's key that they manage his value, but the term has to be right. The cap hit has to be right. You know, club's looking for a 3-year term. I do think there's a sense that security is not as high a priority for the Besser camp, considering their confidence that he will bounce back from last season.
Thomas, can I stop you right there before you go ahead? How do you think arbitration would go for Brock Boeser and the Canucks?
Well, the thing about club-elected arbitration is that you can seek to reduce a player's salary by 15%. So that would be a $6.375 million cap hit if the Canucks were to win, get all that they wanted through the arbitration process. A big if. The problem with arbitration is you cede the ability to select the term of the deal to the other side. So if the team files, it's Besser's camp's decision. You can do a 1-year term, you can elect a 1-year term, or you can elect a 2-year term that walks you right to unrestricted free agency. That's some of the fire you're playing with. Additionally, you have to wait to have some certainty, some cost certainty on a first-line winger if you're Vancouver, into late July, maybe early August this year. That is far from ideal, considering everything else this club has to accomplish and how scant their salary cap space is. Additionally, considering Besser's track record as a point producer, I don't know that it's a guarantee that you get him down to the 85% value of his qualifying offer anyway. I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I think that's where we'll ultimately land, but I do know that the club's discussed.
Ilya Mikheyev.
No, I've got other updates.
Oh, okay. I thought that's where you were going.
I want to talk about a player named Horvat.
Go.
I just want to tell you this nicely. I don't got anything on Mikheyev. I would assume the Canucks would be interested. Him hitting the market early is not actually ideal for them because they need to clear cap space to bid. And now that he's sort of allowed to talk to teams early, there's a chance that a team jumps the market, trades a mid-round pick for his negotiating rights, and gets the deal done before Vancouver makes the types of moves they'd have to make first to be a serious bidder for Mikheyev, who's going to end up at $4.5 million, I'd expect, through this free agency process. But I've got other updates. I want to talk about Horvat. Yeah, it's been quiet around Horvat. I want to tell you this nicely, Donnie. Just telling you this nicely. Preliminary informal discussions have occurred there, okay? And it's fair to say that there's a comfort level between the two sides. Now, I want to pour some cold water on this. I'm not expecting something to get done on June 13th. I'm not saying there's a deal in the drawer or anything, but he's a key part of the club's plans. Extending him is a priority. I think one of the reasons why it's been so quiet on the Horvat front is A, no chance he's traded, 0. And B, unlike with JT Miller, who we'll get into shortly, the club is comfortable going past the NHL silly season with Horvat still unresolved. It's a big enough priority. There's enough of a comfort level, enough of an understanding that the sides' interests are aligned, that this is going to get done one way or another. That's why it's so quiet around Bo Horvat. All right.
JT Miller.
You ready?
Yes.
Talks have definitely been more advanced with Miller's camp than with Horvat's, and that's not necessarily a sign of progress here, Donnie, right? The incentives are different considering the season Miller just put together, right? Miller's camp clearly, obviously, we all would, wants to sign his next deal off the back of the 99-point season that he just put together. The club wasn't plussed about holding on to him beyond the trade deadline, but this time it's different, meaningfully different. There's a high regard for the player, but they're also well aware that the risk and the complexity increases if they get into next season with Miller unextended. Like, from what I can gather, the team is fielding some pretty appealing offers for Miller's services. Like, internally, they believe that his value has actually increased since the trade deadline, since they were last sort of involved in it. But just considering the stakes here, the incentives at play on both sides, a resolution has to come with Miller before the juncture of the NHL silly season. The team knows that. This is a very different set of dynamics governing Miller than it is with governing Horvat.
You done? Like JT
I mean,
Miller,
I could keep going, but yeah, I mean, those are the big ones.
Okay.
You want more? You want more? I want to take you to task, though, Donnie, I want to have a Luongo McLean discussion before I go. So
sure,
I'll let
absolutely.
you manage the clock.
Well, no, yeah. I have said for a long time that if Roberto Luongo's number, and he's your buddy, you work together in Florida, let's keep that in mind. If Roberto Luongo's number one goes up to the rafters, no problem, as long as Kirk McLean's number one goes up there with him. So go ahead.
You've never barbecued with Kirk? You guys have never shared a pop, Donnie?
Anyway, your opinion.
All right, ready? McLean
Yes.
had 10 complete Canucks seasons. He got traded in the 11th. Okay? Started over 60 games in 2 of those 10 seasons and managed an above-average save percentage, Donnie, on 3 occasions. 3 of 10. During the course of his Canucks tenure from 1987 to 1998, right, discounting the season in which he was dealt, like McLean ranked 18th in the NHL among 22 goaltenders that played at least 300 games. That by save percentage. Like, he wasn't his generation's Wah, Hasek, or Brodeur, or even in that tier. His contemporaries were like Healy and Ranford and Vernon. Obviously, the 94 run, that's an unassailable part of his legacy. It should be. But it was also 24 games. And you have to weight those 24 games really heavily. They mattered more than just about any other games this franchise has ever played. But they can't count more than the fact that when McLean came into a season, you'd kind of have to just wait and see. Like, some years he'd be an elite workhorse goaltender, and other seasons he'd be fine. Like, he'd be a guy who plays 40 or 50 games and be about league average or a bit below. That's the mark of an average starter, and that's a hugely valuable player, which McLean was for this organization. He belongs in the Ring of Honor. But what Luongo was, completely different. Star goaltender, completely different level. Like, during his Canucks tenure, 15 goalies played at least 300 games. Luongo ranked 4th by save percentage. McLean's tenure might have been longer, but Luongo played more regularly. So he ends up with over 100 more wins and made 5,000 more saves, Donnie. Like, he played 7 Canucks seasons, started 60 games, 4 of those 6 seasons, managed an above-average save percentage in 6 of those 7 years. The only season in which he wasn't an above-average starter for the Canucks was the lockout-shortened year. He played only 20 games. It's all about repeatability with goaltenders. There's 4 goalies in the league this past 2 years who've started more than 30 games in both seasons and managed a .915 save percentage or above. You want to hear the names, Donnie? It's Vasilevsky.
I don't know, but the show ends at noon, Thomas. Go for it.
It's Vasilevsky, it's Shesterkin, it's Saros, and it's Demko. And doesn't that sound about right? Like, the trick when you're a goaltender is to do it year after year after year. Like, the club got it right with McLean. He should be in the Ring of Honor. Luongo is a Hall of Famer. One of 3 goalies to play 1,000 games, spent his best years in Vancouver. Luongo's number 1 should hang from the rafters. It has nothing to do with McLean, and it's a no-brainer. Yeah,
and you remember that beer league team I was talking about getting into the Memorial Cup? That was what Kirk McLean had to deal with the first few years when he was in Vancouver. Also, you've got a point there because McLean was yanked twice in the 94. Pardon me, that was Luongo in the 2011 Stanley Cup Final. Better big game goaltender. I'm talking about moments here versus the entire body of work.
Did McLean ever win a game in this city as big as the 2010 gold medal Olympic winning game? Like, has
this just did. Roberto had a lot of help.
not on the game tying goal.
Well, hold on a second. What team was he playing for in the 2010 Olympics? Was it the Canucks? No, it was Team Canada.
Yeah, sure, but it's happened in that building. It happened in that city. It's the best. It's the biggest hockey win in the history of Vancouver, or at least since 1918. You know, I mean, there's some sense to which that's part of his legacy in this city as well. It should be acknowledged. It happened in the building. We're talking about a banner that would be raised above that very ice surface. I don't think you can discount it. At the end of the day, are you going to retire a number who was tied in save percentage with Glenn Healy over his Canucks tenure? Like, come on, Donnie. Come on. They're
Also,
just not the same caliber of player.
Here's another argument that helps me. Roberto Luongo, more of a Panther, more of a Canuck. His number's already been retired by the Panthers. Did he have a stellar enough career to have his number retired by 2 franchises?
I mean, I think for sure he's one of 2 goalies to win more than 200 games for 2 franchises. It's him and Patrick Roy. Like, this doesn't happen. And it's not like, Donnie, he was just here for business. You know, Vancouver means a lot to him. He was emotionally invested. When the Canucks moved on from him, when he lost that job, it's not like he was like, that's okay, I'll go back to Florida. He was gutted. It was gut-wrenching. He bled Canucks while he was here. He did. And he represented the franchise as an appropriate standard bearer. Now,
okay, hold on.
Not to say McLean didn't. Just that Luongo's a different caliber of player. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer who spent his best seasons in Vancouver. There's 4 players in the history of the league for whom you could say that about. Sedin, Bure, Luongo. The other numbers hang from the rafter. One's got to go up there, man.
Yeah, okay. And again, I'll agree with you. It does go up there, along with Kirk McLean's number 1. So we'll agree on that. All right.
Retire 2 numbers. That's not how it works.
Montreal's done it.
And only one guy should have his number retired. Unfortunately,
Montreal's done it.
McLean wasn't at the level. He was above average 30% of the time. Donnie, he was 18th of 22 goaltenders in save percentage during his Canucks tenure.
Yeah, but we could go on and on about this.
An average starter's
we could talk about the first. He
got hot for
the first 2 playoff series against
Anton Khudobin. You're arguing for retiring Anton Khudobin's number.
Roberto Luongo couldn't stop a puck against the Blackhawks in the first 2 series against them. There's that too. There were some negative moments there.
That happened, but he was also playing 70 games a year. I mean, with what we understand about goalie usage, it's a little different. McLean only played.
I don't want to get you started on numbers and analytics, and then we'll be here till 12 o'clock Monday. We got to go, Thomas.
All right. Thanks, Donnie.
You're
Donnie.
awesome.
I just wanted to tell you nicely, I love to be on the show without Rick.
You're awesome, buddy.
See you, man.
Thanks. Thomas Drance from The Athletic.